Tale of Tarmasis, the Black Dragonborn. Once a proud member of Clan Verthicha, Aishing, he spent his years in the mountains of Zemanther hunting beside his people and creating strong ties with family and loved ones. On the third moon of Gaithorn, Tarmasis stood on watch protecting the walls of his village from unknown intruders. The night was quiet, other than the light banter he and Willfire, a tiefling of similar age, shared to pass the time. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a series of horrid, blood-curdling screams came from inside the village walls. The two turned to see a white blur tearing through buildings and rending flesh and bone from familiar forms. His village was under attack, and already in an instant so many had died. He rushed into combat with his long sword overhead and fought until the last of his people fell. Surrounded in the corpses of his loved ones, he struck the final blow upon the unknown creature, ripping the skull from its head in vengeance. The night grew silent once more, wounded, near death, and crushed of spirit, knowing all he had was lost. Tarmasis fled the bloodied husk that was once his home, never to return again. His face and half his torso torn and severed, but his legs and mind still intact. Afraid to be seen by civilization, he spent the following 6 years in seclusion, traveling the plague lands, hiding from hideous mutated creatures and forgotten pilgrims, occasionally finding the misjudged comfort of shelter in the ruined city of Orm-Pathar. The years melted away as the Dragonborn grew in power with his dedication to survive the horrid lands, all that was familiar to him. This natural tenet to explore places unfit for most people led him deep to a soft, glowing cave of blue light. Before him, illuminated by cerulean glow, a large steel sword lay rested upon a rock slab. Eager to loot this prized gem, he lifted it from the cold stone. A loud ringing vibrated through his mind, and before him an entity of unimaginable horror appeared. Paralyzed by fear, he stared down the devil, the unknown depths of his mind tapping into insanity with every lingering second, until darkness. Tarmasis opened his eyes. He stood surrounded in the same familiar vault of cavernous rock, but the comforting blue glow had diminished and fled. In its place, a cacophony of rot and decay. Where there was light, there is now shadow. In front of him, the same figure stood from before, staring strictly with piercing eyes, no clear intent to remove its gaze from the paralytic Dragonborn. What felt like an hour passed with unmoving hostility and fear. Tarmasis found the strength to step forward and approach this being. "I am nothing to you. What do you want from me?" With no hesitation, the entity responded in broken whispers.
Black Dragon, who hath survived the plague lands, who slayed the quick earth, brought to me by fate. I know you, clanless, broken and alone, seeking purpose. Take this light, the last gift of Shar. With it, you will find new strength and once again return to the world of the living.
The entity reached out with long fingers, and hovering in his withered palm, a cerulean blue flame. With nothing to lose, without hesitation, The Dragonborn lurched forward and reached for the mysterious source of power. In an instant, the air felt clear, the walls once again breathing with moss and morning dew. He had returned to his world, and his old scars now healed. The entity was gone, and in its place still lay the gnarled, unsound sword. Tarmasis lifted it, weightlessly, from the ground and heard a familiar voice echo in his head.
Black Dragon, I will be your hands and guide you. Listen when I whisper. Feed me when I hunger. Together, we will finish what she started.
2 years passed. The Black Dragon and his mysterious sword traveled across Faerun with new invigorated health, cutting down those unworthy of life who threatened settlements similar to that of his lost home. Confident to never let history repeat itself. In a warm tavern bed upon the border of the fabled Sword Coast, a restless night threw itself over the Dragonborn. Like stagnant pond water, it sank painfully into his pores. He saw the world being destroyed by cold, choking fumes, lightning storms, waves of acid, and horrible fire. It climaxed with 10 evil eyes glaring down at him from the darkness, and as he awoke, a familiar whisper entered his ears, wishing him towards the small town of Greennest. Without question, there he traveled. Another path he must take upon command of his strange dark passenger that he vowed his life to so long ago.